Bomb hip-hop is not about to give up on his mission to destroy Diddy for good. Music industry revealed some interesting details that suggest Diddy actually groomed Usher. Diddy Khan officially federal lawsuit, but the truth of the situation is somehow even darker than anyone could have ever imagined. Tupac Shakur, you'll never believe.
I told you can't trust these niggas. Now Puffy done killed Tupac, man.
Puffy's sucker, man. Oh wait, maybe I said that shit about Puffy because he got Tupac killed.
Just how twisted this situation truly is. It started with a raid of Diddy's house, key investigation, and it keeps getting crazier and crazier. With promises of more to come. Ever since this whole Diddy saga started, FBI key investigation has seemingly been milking it for everything it's worth. Not just because Diddy is one of his biggest rivals, Tupac, but also because he's been trying to tell us all along that Diddy isn't who we thought he was. But before all this drama started, nobody actually believed him. We all believed the perfect image that Diddy had built for himself over the decades. And if he hadn't been exposed the way he was, chances are nobody would have ever believed that.
The 3 LAPD and FBI agents were part of a task force to solve the shooting of rapper Notorious B.I.G., also known as Biggie Smalls, legal name Christopher Wallace. The task force, through a sophisticated criminal investigation, obtained sufficient evidence that would prove Mr. Davis was the leader of the Southside Crips and his gang was responsible for over 360 kilos of cocaine and PCP. Mr. Davis provided 3 interviews to obtain immunity from prosecution. The final interview were solely questions regarding the Tupac Shakur shooting, which Mr. Davis was also provided immunity from prosecution. So during a December 2008 interview with investigators, that is when Davis allegedly started to spill the beans about his one-time friend, Sean Combs, who he refers to as Puffy. He claims Sean Puffy Combs solicited Mr. Davis to kill Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur for $1 million. Eric Zip Martin, an associate of Puffy Combs, provided Mr. Davis with a gun to exact revenge on Tupac Shakur for the beating Mr. Anderson received. Now, Davis reportedly told the investigators that even though the job had been partially completed and Shakur was killed, neither he nor Anderson ever got paid. He later revealed that he believes Combs had paid the go-between Zip Martin, who he claims kept the money for himself. And he said much of the same thing in a 2009 interview a year later, because according to the motion to dismiss, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, as far back as 2009, was in possession of the same set of facts that the Clark County District Attorney is now alleging makes Mr. Davis responsible for the murder of Tupac Shakur. The Clark County District Attorney's Office has offered no reason as to why it waited another 14 years to prosecute a case against Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis has been irreversibly prejudiced by this unnecessary delay in prosecution of this case, and Mr. Davis's constitutional rights have been violated in an extraordinary manner never before witnessed in the annals of the American criminal justice system.
He was capable of doing all the things he's been accused of. Investigator but let's get to the real meat of the story. To understand the whole point of this, we have to go back in time a bit to the mid-1990s, which was a very important time for both Diddy and Usher. At the time, fans, Diddy, media, or law enforcement was already a rising star in the music industry, managing some of the biggest names through Bad Boy Records. Usher, on the other hand, was just a teenage artist on the verge of his big break. Collision 50 Cent finally got that break after he landed a deal.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. We are following new developments in the case of the hip-hop mogul who is facing RICO charges in New York, Sean P. Diddy Combs. Court TV has just confirmed that the family of Tupac Shakur is investigating a potential link between the murder of Tupac and Sean Diddy Combs. This coming from attorney Alex Spiro, who represents Tupac's family. Now, this investigation had been previously reported by unnamed sources, but earlier today, Spiro confirmed to our Court TV team that he and a team of investigators has been hired.
Sean Combs allegedly had business dealings with Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, who will go on trial next March for the murder of Tupac. This was back in 1996. Some have speculated that Diddy ordered Tupac's death. That, of course, is just a theory at this point, and we are monitoring the developments in both the Tupac murder trial and the federal indictment of Sean Diddy Combs. So a lot of information to come on that one.
In the case that continues to roll on, let's bring in National Trial Attorney Michael J. just to talk about this new news of an investigative team that is been hired by Tupac's family. We don't have more details about what they found so far and exactly what avenues they are taking to do that, but what does that say to you? What do you think is happening, and how serious is this when someone hires an investigative team in a murder trial that's being handled by authorities, but this is a private entity requesting this?
Julia, I always say, landslides don't happen slowly, right? You'll be standing on the side of a mountain admiring its beauty and glamour, and then 1 second later, you're buried in mud, right? This does not shock me. This does not surprise me. I can promise you this is not the last thing that we find out about people investigating Diddy and what he's done. This is not the first. We know of an attorney now who represents hundreds of families who are suing him for, alleged, freak-offs and sexual misconduct. So what this tells me is that it's just a piling on. Pretty much people knew for decades what we're going to start finding out things that people have speculated on for decades, and they're just going to pile on, because at the end of the day, how's he going to defend himself at this point? He's got a ton of money, he's got a ton of attorneys, but even if you have unlimited money and unlimited resources, if you are sued, by 100 different people, 100 different times, 100 different theories, at the end of the day, you as a professional defendant operating from a jail cell, you cannot overcome that. You just can't do it.
With U.S. Chica High, which was founded and allegedly by L.A. Reid. 50 Cent B recognizing Usher's potential, but knowing that he needed polishing for mainstream success. Kiowa L.A. made a decision. He sent Usher to New York City to live with Diddy, who was already gaining fame as a music mogul and producer. According to Usher's own accounts in past interviews, Diddy's world was filled.
But during an interview with the FBI in 1999, Davis apparently said something completely different. According to the FBI report, which was included in the motion to dismiss, Anderson was not involved in the shooting death of Tupac Shakur, and neither Davis nor his group killed Shakur or Christopher Wallace, aka Notorious B.I.G. Davis does not know who killed the two rap stars. He believes that either individuals from New York associated with Puffy Combs or individuals associated with Death Row Records could have killed Shakur, and that individuals associated with Death Row Records killed Wallace. Okay, so again, changing stories. And by the way, Davis goes on to say that he was introduced to Combs in the early 90s by a man named Eric Zip Martin. This is another alleged drug dealer. And this is where we get into it. So the report reads, in or around 1992, Martin introduced Davis to Sean Puffy Combs. Davis recalls the introduction occurring at the Paradise nightclub on Santa Monica Boulevard. After speaking with Combs, Davis agreed to allow Combs to use his 1964 Chevy in a music video. The video featured the artist Usher. After the vehicle was damaged in the production of the video, Combs paid $2,500 to have it repaired. And by the way, according to Davis, Combs was scared of Suge Knight. And this was a man who had a reputation for being, sometimes violent and extreme. And that moves us now to this DEA report. So there was a DEA report from a 2008 task force meeting with Davis that was also included as an exhibit in the motion. And in it, Davis talks about the murder of a man named Jai Robles. This is Knight's bodyguard. He was killed in Atlanta in 1995. And according to Davis, he'd heard a rumor that an associate of Combs had killed Robles. The report says Combs requested to speak to Davis and asked Davis if he thought it was safe for Combs to come to Los Angeles for a concert. Combs expressed his concerns about Knight and possible retaliation related to the Robles murder. Davis advised Combs that he would provide 40 or 50 tickets to the concert. Davis could provide an entourage. Combs agreed, and Davis and his crew in fact attended the concert in support of Combs. Davis recalls the concert taking place in Anaheim, California. It was at this event that Combs began to solicit Davis to kill Knight and Shakur. Combs asserted something to the effect of, "I'll give anything for those dudes' heads." Quote, at a later date, Dwayne Davis, Eric Martin, Corey Edwards, Sean Combs, and others met at Greenblatt's restaurant in Hollywood. Well, at the restaurant, Combs summoned Davis into the downstairs area. Combs again told Davis that he needed to get rid of Knight and Shakur. Combs offered Davis $1 million to handle the problem. Davis remembers Combs being very afraid of Knight. So after the car that Knight and Shakur were in was hit by a hail of bullets back in 1996, Davis says that Combs wanted to know if that was the result of him allegedly putting out a hit on Shakur. The task force report states, well, at the restaurant, Martin told Davis that Combs had called Martin and asked, "Was that us?" Davis asked Martin when he would receive compensation for the shooting. Martin told Davis he would get the money when he returns to New York. Additionally, while at the restaurant, Combs called Martin again. Martin then handed the phone to Davis. Combs again inquired, "Was that us?" Davis recalled Combs sounding elated. Now, Davis reportedly told the investigators that even though the job had been partially completed and Shakur was killed, he nor Anderson ever got paid. He later revealed that he believes Combs paid the go-between, again Zimp Martin, who allegedly kept it for himself. So we mentioned a moment ago that an LAPD officer had recorded statements that Davis made in 2008. The state included a transcript of that interview in its filing, and in the transcript, WH refers to Wayne Higgins. This is Davis's lawyer during the interview. Q refers to the questions, and the A's are Davis's answers. Okay, so it says, WH, okay, now go on and ask whatever you want. Q, Puffy Combs. A, yeah. Q, does he play a role in this thing? WH, answer the question directly. Tell him what you think. A, did he play a role in this? WH, don't hesitate, just tell him. Question, yes. Answer, yeah, I think he did. And later in the interview, Davis said, yeah, I feel, I wish it would never ever, I wish I never met Puff Daddy, period, I swear to God. Question, yeah? Answer, he messed up my life, man. I was rich up and under the radar, all that, man. Question, that's all gone? Answer, it's all gone.
With late-night parties, extravagant spending, and adult entertainment. In a 2010 interview on Jimmy Kimmel Live, Usher talked about how he and Diddy would wake up together and go about their day. Although Usher made this comment as a joke, it sparked a lot of speculation about the real nature of their relationship. Viral or engaging why would a grown man and a teenage boy be sleeping in the same bed when they lived in an apartment?
Let me ask you a different way, my friend, because I think I understand why you're being cautious. I understand why you're hiding, not hiding, but you're using the investigation as a reason.
I'm right here.
No, I don't mean hiding. I'll take back the word hiding, but why you're reticent again about potentially saying what is really on your mind. Because you know, and I know, that everyone believes that Diddy was involved in both these shootings and had a direct involvement in your brother's death. That is what the streets have said for 27 years. That's why 50 Cent said it. That's why Eminem has said similar stuff. What's interesting to me about your involvement in this is that Diddy actually called you after an LA Times article in 2008 alleging he'd been involved in your brother's death. What did he say that day when he called you?
He was in town. He was in LA at the time. He was on the radio. He asked a local DJ that we all know, Big Boy, to reach out to me because he wanted to speak to me about something. This is a few years after Pac's murder, and you know, we all were familiar with all the rumors and stuff. I said, yeah, let me talk to him. So he called me, and you know, I had my guys with me, Thug Life guys, and we heard what he had to say. He basically said he ain't have nothing to do with my brother's murder. And I told him the truth is still yet to come out, so we're gonna see. Here we are 27, 28 years later. Looks like there's some doubt in that statement. So, thus, you know, along with all the other suspicions that people have, you know, it was time for it to be investigated.
In a statement at the time, Diddy declared, "This story is a lie, the LA Times story. Neither I nor the late Notorious had any knowledge of any attack on Tupac before, during, or after it happened." Do you think that was an honest statement?
My opinion is that I don't believe it was 100% honest statement. So again, got to find out what's true and what's false, what's real and what's fake.
Do you think he was lying?
Quite possibly, and it's kind of looking that way.
And with more than enough rooms for Rocket everyone. Bomb Agar or it didn't make much sense, intense Chahi, but nobody pushed for more information. Usher also spoke about being exposed to adult situations during his time with Diddy. In one infamous 2002 documentary clip, Usher described how he was introduced to things that he probably shouldn't have been seeing, including wild parties with women and a lifestyle most teenagers couldn't even begin to imagine. At the time, what Usher said in the video...
She says she believed that Diddy had something to do with the murder of Tupac Shakur and said as much. Allegedly, Diddy warned her that she would pay for saying something like that. So let's just fast forward now to a month later, where she says this guy, Shane, invited her to come to his apartment. And the lawsuit says, quote, plaintiff and defendant Shane then began to watch a movie, and defendant Shane offered her a glass of water, which he retrieved and brought back to the plaintiff. A few minutes later, Ashley Parham says that P. Diddy showed up with an entourage, including his top aide, Christina Coram, an unnamed woman who is not a defendant in the suit, and 3 unnamed men, one of whom she says was Diddy's driver, and Parham says that that driver waited outside throughout the whole of what I'm about to tell you. Parham says that Diddy was antagonistic from the start and that he put a knife to her face. And now this is where I start reading directly from the complaint. Defendant Shane then partially undressed plaintiff, and then defendant Diddy removed the remainder of plaintiff's clothing, removing the knife from her face, and then retrieved a bottle of liquid from a large fanny pack. Defendant Diddy then squirted a bottle of liquid on plaintiff, which placed her in fear that she was being squirted with a chemical substance like acid. Plaintiff soon realized the substance was an oil/lubricant. Plaintiff was squirted with this liquid substance all over the entirety of her naked body. Defendant KK was then told by defendant Diddy to insert what looked like a syringe from sterile packaging into plaintiff's vagina. Defendant KK did as told, and then told defendant Diddy that she was unable to use the IUD because it had prematurely been released from its packaging, and an IUD is a birth control device. Defendant Diddy, upset by this, took the so-called syringe from defendant KK and tried inserting it into plaintiff's vagina instead. Defendant KK and Diddy began to argue as defendant KK continued to advise defendant Diddy that since the IUD had been prematurely released from its packaging, there was no way they could insert it into plaintiff's vagina effectively. After some time, defendant Diddy heeded the advice of defendant KK and removed the syringe from plaintiff's vagina and handed it to defendant KK. Defendants KK and Jane Doe then exited defendant Shane's residence, leaving the plaintiff alone with defendants Diddy, Shane, and Doe's number 1 and 2. Defendant Diddy then picked up a television remote that was near to plaintiff and violently inserted it into plaintiff's vagina. Defendant Diddy, while violently raping plaintiff with a television remote, told plaintiff that her life was in his hands and that if he wanted, he could, quote, take her, and she would never be seen again. Plaintiff began hysterically crying from the threats by Diddy, along with the pain of being violently, vaginally raped by defendant Diddy with the television remote, as well as the lingering pain from the ordeal with the IUD syringe insertion. Defendant Diddy then instructed defendant Shane to turn plaintiff on her stomach, seemingly tired of hearing plaintiff's blood-curdling cries. Defendant Shane then grabbed plaintiff by her abdomen and hips and turned plaintiff on her stomach. Defendant Diddy then instructed defendant Shane to put a pillow over her head because he didn't want to see her face or hear her cries, and instructed defendant Shane to anally rape plaintiff. Defendant Shane did as he was told by defendant Diddy and began to anally rape plaintiff. Defendant Diddy then violently raped plaintiff anally after defendant Shane.
The video was brushed off as nothing. But in hindsight, maybe we should have questioned Diddy back then. Because if we did, a lot more people could have been saved. Now, when L.A. Reid sent Usher over to stay with Diddy, his intentions were clear. He believed that Diddy's experience...
Speaking of, in particular, Netflix docuseries that you've been working on, Diddy Do It.
Right.
You've been saying for years that you feel you knew Diddy's character.
Right.
Yet you said you weren't a part of that lifestyle, you weren't going to the parties. So what makes you so absolutely sure that these kinds of allegations that we've seen against him are true?
Well, I'm surprised by the allegations, as surprised as everyone else is. Like, I didn't make the allegations. I didn't tell people to say these things. It comes out, I see it in the news like everyone else. But I did feel uncomfortable with the way you would present the idea of going to these projects.
To come party with me.
Yeah. And then that swayed me away from it, just that alone.
So you didn't realize
as much stuff was coming. Like, when I seen today, it was allegations of 3 men that said he drugged them, and it's a long time, to be honest with you. Like, when people don't remember being violated for 20 years, it makes me feel a little hard.
What are your thoughts on the allegations against Jay-Z?
That was interesting. When I was saying things, not knowing exactly what I was saying, but I was going with, like, where's Jay at? He's mad quiet. Like while the Puffy thing was going on. But it's obvious now that his team was being made aware that he was in those allegations also. You know, so I hope it works out, because with his family, the things that go on internally
and success in the industry could help mold Usher into a superstar. So, Diddy was tasked with mentoring Usher, teaching him the ins and outs of the music business and preparing him for a lifelong career in entertainment. But he allegedly did more than just mentor him. There have been countless rumors about Diddy doing a lot of crazy things to Usher, things that go way beyond allowing him to attend adult parties. Supposedly, Diddy groomed Usher and did a lot of...
And once they find the criminal activity in those, they could bring them in. Now, did the Federal Bureau of Investigation in Miami do it? No, they didn't. Did California do it? No, they did not. The Southern District of New York, they took it upon themselves and put on that raid and everything based on the information they found in Cassie lawsuit and the information they found in Little Rod lawsuit. But all this is bigger than Diddy. It's bigger than Diddy, bro. Because you know who else they was doing investigation on during that whole time period? It was the mayor and the politicians in New York City. They turn around and give him the key to the city. All the mayor people that he brought on here in New York City are all resigning. They all resigning. People ain't gonna tie this together, but if you look at it, you have to say, because of Mayor Adams and his relationship with Diddy, it brought on the Southern District of New York to start investigating Diddy on civil lawsuits that was put against him. Because the feds is going after all these politicians in New York City.
Yeah, the feds revealed that, anybody that, participated in any, criminal behavior at his freak-offs, they're going to pursue.
Listen here. The mayor here take like 15 spoons of sugar in his coffee. So it's all a possibility.
Do you think there's any celebrities on them tapes?
Bro, he gave celebrity parties. So what you think?
Jay-Z is staying on the offensive, going after not only the attorney who filed the rape lawsuit against him and Diddy, that would be Tony Busby, the attorney, but also the accuser. And he has filed a new motion this morning, which we're gonna get to in a moment, but basically he wants to level the playing field with the accuser. But first, we got to start with this response that Jay-Z had to the allegation. Catch you up real quick if you hadn't heard, but a woman who had filed a lawsuit against Diddy back in October, alleging that he had raped raped her at a VMA after party in the year 2000 when she was only 13 years old.
Right. Remember, this is when she allegedly was given a drink. She felt woozy, and there was Diddy, and there was a male celebrity who was unnamed at the time, and also a female celebrity.
Well, that unnamed celebrity is now named. She refiled the lawsuit on Sunday. She and her attorney, Tony Busby, refiled it and named Jay-Z as that unnamed celebrity involved in the rape. Jay-Z's response is extraordinary in that, look, we've seen all these lawsuits against Diddy, dozens of them now at this point, and frequently his response has been to deny it, but to say nothing else. Jay-Z went way more than just denying it. He did do that, but then went directly after the attorney. Part of his statement said, "My lawyer received a blackmail attempt from a lawyer named Tony Busby. It made me want to expose you, Tony Busby, for the fraud you are in a very public fashion. So no, I will not give you one red penny." This lawyer, who I have done a bit of research on, seems to have a pattern of these types of theatrics. You claim to be a Marine,